Good morning and welcome to the Chateau de Lalande, where this Sunday it is a breakfast in bed day in La Chambre Perse. I've never shown you a bedroom before. I wanted to start with this one because it's the first room that we decorated in the house, so it's a bedroom that's very dear to my heart. For many years it was my mother's bedroom, and as many of you will know, my mother's made an apartment for herself in the attic on the other side of the building, and now it is one of our chambre d'hôte rooms. So we have guests coming to stay here with us from all over the world. I think it's really important in winter. I go around sleeping in each of my bedrooms just to see what needs to be done, how I need to tweak the decoration, what's missing, what makes it comfortable or uncomfortable. And so last night I slept here, and I'm really happy to wake up in this room because it's always been one of my favorite rooms. Those of you who've already seen my videos about the renovations downstairs in the Grand Salon and the kitchen, for example, will know just how much work we had to do downstairs. But upstairs, the work was much easier. The bedrooms were in quite a nice state, and although they weren't beautifully decorated, there was a lot that I could work with. Many of them had stunning French wallpapers that were put in sometime in the 20th century. We don't know exactly when. And this room is a perfect example of that. You can see this very lavish wallpaper behind me. And it's from this paper that the room gets its name, La Chambre Perse. In French, Perse means Persian. And the previous owners called it the Persian room because of this paisley-esque patterning. I kept all of the bedroom names from the previous owners because I wanted to keep this sense of history and continuity in the house. I didn't want to break with tradition just because we were new owners. So all of the bedrooms have the same names that they've had for decades. And we've kept the name La Chambre Perse. This room has another room next door to it called La Chambre des Oiseaux. Once again, it has an original wallpaper, which we've kept, and there's a lot more work to do in there still. So I'll just show you a glimpse of it now, but it's very much a work in progress. We'll be keeping the wallpaper, but I still have to make curtains for the room and I have to redecorate it. We tend to rent this as a family suite. 2 people can sleep in the Chambre des Oiseaux in twin beds, and then a couple can sleep in this room, and the 2 share a bathroom. I like the bathroom that these 2 rooms share very much. It is very old-fashioned in style. It doesn't have a lovely modern power shower. It doesn't have a shower at all, but it has a beautiful old clawfoot bath, which was original to the chateau. It has a lovely Edwardian washstand that belonged to my mother. The walls are painted in Farrenball's picture gallery red, and there's a lovely frieze of Grecian goddesses frolicking by Timney Fowler. The picture gallery red does exactly what the name suggests. It's a lovely, rich backdrop for paintings, and I love the poster that's over the bath. It was given to me years and years ago, and it still has lovely memories for me. It's so sweet and romantic, and it's beautiful to look at that whilst lying in the bath. The gold paintings are all by Michael Potts, who is one of my best friends and who bought the chateau with me. He used to draw quite a lot. He did a fine art degree, but in fact now he is a photographer and jets around the world photographing Grand Prix. The wallpaper is definitely one of my favourite things about this room. And I was very, very lucky because when we moved in, there was a little bit of fabric that matched the wallpapers hanging at the windows. I hesitate to call them curtains because they were about this wide and ended about 1 meter from the ground. I think that originally they would have gone to the floor, but they'd just been washed so many times over the years, they'd shrunk, and I couldn't possibly keep them as curtains. But I decided to use them to make pelmets for new curtains so that we would keep the idea of the curtains matching the wallpaper but have something much grander, more sumptuous, because I think more is more. But as I was cutting the fabric to be able to shape it into the pelmets, I realised that it still had the name of the company woven along the side, and it was Paul Dumas et Compagnie. I looked them up, and they were a company that was founded in 1838 by Alexandre Dumas. By 1851, they were advertising the fact that they had been suppliers to the Emperor and to Prince Napoleon. The company continued to make excellent papers in the French tradition until finally and sadly they went bankrupt in 1979. So that dates the wallpaper. It has to be somewhere between 1838 and 1979, and I suspect that this falls somewhere in the middle, probably somewhere between 1920s and 1960s, I suspect, when they would have redecorated this part of the chateau. I feel so incredibly lucky that we had this little bit of fabric still to match the wallpaper. That's quite rare. It gives this wonderful sense of unity and harmony to the room. As I knew that I was going to be using the matching fabric to make the curtains, I knew that I needed something that was fairly neutral to add to it, but at the same time I didn't just want a cream, I wanted a lavish yellow curtain to feel that sunshine is pouring into the room all the time. And I finally found the perfect fabric, which is this cotton and silk brocade from Watts of Westminster called Chagall. I love this curtain. I love the feeling of sunshine that it brings to a room. Even on the murkiest of days, it feels bright and beautiful in here. The wallpaper did feel a little bit overwhelming when we first arrived because it went all the way from the ceiling right down to the floor, and the curtains obviously were the same as well, and it's quite an overpowering paper, and however much I love it, I felt that it would look better if it was toned down a little bit. And I did that by putting a picture rail in and bringing down the white of the ceiling to the picture rail and adding a dado rail. One day I would love that to be a beautiful wooden paneling, but in the meantime, it's just painted in Faramball's string below the dado rail. And that just relaxes the room, and I think that the wallpaper is now more beautiful because of it, because it doesn't overwhelm you anymore. This room actually has my favourite bedroom suite in the whole chateau. It was a gift from my parents when I was 18 years old. Even though we in no way lived in a chateau, I crammed this furniture into my much smaller room back then, and for decades this was my bedroom furniture. I love the carving on the bed. It's all in the Louis XVI style, probably dates from the early 20th century. It's heavenly, it's so feminine and pretty, and it tones down what was quite a masculine, overpowering room at first and adds a very important feminine counterbalance. It's one of the biggest bedroom sets that I've ever seen. There's a wardrobe, a bed, a dressing table, a bedside table, 2 chairs that match as well. The chairs were the first upholstery project that I ever tackled. I went on an upholstery course with my aunt and uncle back when I was 18 years old, and we learned how to do upholstery, and well, that was many years ago, and I think it's time to do them again, sadly, but they've held pretty well over these years. The nice thing about having to upholster quite a small chair is that you can splash out on a really lovely fabric because you don't need very much of it, and in this case I used a Le Lièvre silk with tiny golden bees. I have a slight obsession with bed linen. I love bed linen. And at the moment I am resting against lovely cushions by Pierre Frey. They have a really pretty design on them. There's a man and a woman surrounded by little cherubim, and I think that one of them seems to be offering some kind of incense to the gods. You can see clouds just billowing up towards another little flying cherubim. And that's quite nice because I love scented candles and I love anything that smells delicious. And it's all surrounded by beautiful sunflowers. They're very, very comfortable. And then inside I have huge squishy cushions filled with duck down. The rug in this room was found by my mother at an auction in England, and it's incredible. It just fits and the colours are perfect. Again, it lightens the room a lot because when just the wooden floor was showing, that was quite a lot of brown coming into the room, and I love the wooden floors, but this just makes it softer and brighter. As you can see next to me, there's quite a modern touch in the room because I put Philippe Starck lamps on either side of the bed because I don't want anything to feel as though it's stuck in time. This is not a museum, it is a living house. There are things from every generation, from every period, all mixed together in one big, comfortable mess. In every one of my bedrooms, I have a little area to make tea because I love tea. I'm having coffee at the moment because I absolutely need to wake up and get a lot done today, but that's very rare. Usually I can't start the day without tea. In this room there's a pretty little set of Limoges porcelain. A lot of the porcelain throughout the house is from Limoges because we live so near to Limoges here that quite often I find Limoges sets at little antique shops and secondhand shops around in the area. And I'm also quite near the factory shops in Limoges, which I love going to visit. There are still many things left to do in this room. I would obviously like nice wooden paneling below the dado one day. I would also like to do something about the chimney. There are only 2 chimneys in this house that don't work, and that's the one of the Grand Salon and this one, because here we are directly above the Grand Salon. And that's a real shame, but when the roof was redone in the 1970s, they actually didn't put that chimney through the roof again. I don't know why, but I presume they had a pretty good reason for it. So one day I would like to maybe put a flue going out again, and having a wood burner or even a gas fire could work in these rooms so that we don't have to be traipsing wood in. But something needs to be done there. I haven't quite worked out what in future. And the wallpaper needs quite a lot of repair here and there. Up at the top near the ceiling, it's all buckling off where I painted it, so I have to remove it and repaint white. There's lots of little touches that need to be done. So I think I've got my work cut out this winter. I also absolutely have to find radiator covers because the radiators are just hideous in the middle of this lovely room. I haven't put proper radiator covers yet because the heating of the chateau is geothermal and it's very low temperature, and I'm worried that if I put a traditional radiator cover on my radiators, there's just not going to be enough heat coming through to warm the rooms. So I'm toying with an idea that I might put into practice this winter, which is of putting a shelf on top of the radiators that can be flipped up, and underneath it velcroing a beautiful piece of fabric that matches the room. That way, in summer, which is when we usually rent the rooms and have most of our guests, I can have the shelf down with the fabric on, and then in winter I can whip the fabric off the front, flip the shelf up, and then have the radiator completely exposed. So I will try to do that for this room as a test. The books in the room keep changing because we have a lot of books in the house. My parents and I are all huge collectors of books. People tend to grab whatever they want from around the house and bring it to the room. So in the rooms, the collections are always changing. But at the moment, I am reading Catherine de Medici's biography, which is superb. And this is a perfect place to read it because she lived in the 15th century in a chateau in the Loire Valley, which is not that far from here. And I'm reading about her in another 15th century chateau in central France. So I feel as though I'm living something of what she would have lived and having a similar experience. I want to thank all of you who've been supporting these vlogs. Your feedback is amazing. You're giving me loads of incredible ideas for future vlogs. And please, if you have any more ideas, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. It's really helpful for me, and that way I can make videos that you enjoy in future. If you love chateaus and you would like to hear more about them, please subscribe to this channel. I'll be making lots more videos in the future, and I will also bit by bit show you around every room in the Chateau de Lalande. I really should get up now and start doing things. But instead, I think I'm going to get back to Catherine de Medici and finish my pain au chocolat. I hope you have a glorious Sunday, and I'll see you at Lalande next week.